Good afternoon and happy Friday afternoon. We welcome you here to the Senior Center. We welcome everybody that's here virtually, as well as everybody that is here in the great room at the Senior Center. We invite you to join us for other programs that we have, but I was going to talk about our other programs for about a half hour, and I was told I didn't have that much time. So I'm just going to give you a general invite to all of our wonderful programs. If you have any questions, certainly reach out to us, but we would love to see you either virtually again or here in the building again as well. We are thrilled to co-sponsor the speaker series with Northampton Neighbors. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Mark.
Welcome everyone to Northampton Neighbors Speaker Series, co-sponsored with the Northampton Senior Center. I'm on the board of Northampton Neighbors. I'm part of the group that organizes these talks, and I am delighted to be introducing today's speaker, John Reily, also known as Johnny Memphis, who will share a look back at the history of music in Northampton and a peek forward to what he sees as a new golden age coming down the pike. First, a word about Northampton Neighbors and some logistics. Northampton Neighbors is a member-based nonprofit offering volunteer services, programs, and events to older people who want to continue living independent, engaged lives in their homes and communities with a little neighborly help. We launched 6 years ago, and by the time COVID arrived, we had delivered over 1,700 services to our then 1,000 members and provided a variety of ways for all of us to get together socially. We now have nearly 1,700 members, but we are much more than a ride to the dentist. We have special interest groups, neighborhood circles, regular social gatherings, a lively listserv where people will ask and say things like, who needs daylilies? Anyone got a shop vac we could borrow? Do you know a good electrician? Is this solar company a good deal? And we have much, much more. Anyone, anywhere can be a member of Northampton Neighbors. Those who are older than 55 and live in Northampton, Florence, and Leeds can receive services. There are no dues, fees, or charges for any of the services or social opportunities we provide. Now, to our featured speaker. John grew up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. His life changed forever when the Beatles appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964. He was 9 years old and he started buying 45 RPM records. He went to college at the University of Pennsylvania, and then he moved to Northampton, where he started writing music reviews for the Daily Hampshire Gazette and playing bass in the Suburban Headswappers. That's where he got the stage name Johnny Memphis. He used that name at WRSI Radio, where he worked as a DJ and music director for 21 years. After radio, he got degrees at UMass and taught social studies and English at Frontier Regional School. I think of John as the zealot of the Northampton music scene. He's either been there at the creation or been part of the creation for most of the tentpoles of our local musical world over the last 40 years. In addition to that Gazette column entitled called Backbeat, John's first week of work at WRSI coincided with the very first Green River Festival, where he was assigned a variety of backstage tasks. He helped start our beloved Trans-Performance series and the 4 Sundays in February series, which includes the Silver Cord Bowl, and for a time featured the Really Big Show, where in a full circle moment in the very first of those, John played Ed Sullivan. John's band opened for the Pogues, and then both bands went back to his house to party afterwards. He introduced Miles Davis at one concert. He got to interview B.B. King in his tour bus, John Lee Hooker, Sun Ra, and Divine. He invites his neighbors to fundraisers and concerts by his friends in his backyard. He's served on the boards of the Northampton Center for the Arts and the Northampton Arts Council. After playing in bands like Check Please, the Big Bad Bollocks, he now leads the Johnny Memphis Band. In 2016, he wrote a book about the Green River Festival called Music in the Air, and he's currently writing a book about his Harrisburg family of origin. He lives with his two college-age children, Chris and Maeve, in Florence, where he is the music coordinator for the Florence Summer Concert Series. Take it away, John.
Thank you, Mark. Happy Groundhog's Day. It's the return of the light, and that's kind of the theme of my talk, sort of a new dawn idea of what's happening in the local music scene. And the weather looks good. It's going to be sunny this weekend, which will be a change. Highs around mid-43, lows about 38. Once a DJ, always a DJ. Like to give you the weather report. Thanks to Northampton Neighbors, which is a great organization, for inviting me to talk about the local music scene. I love to talk about where we live. There's so much to talk about. I'm just going to not be able to tell you anywhere near everything, but I've got a little thread that I want to get into it. I want to let you know, for local, I mean, it's going to be Northampton centric, what I'm talking about, but also the river valley from Springfield to Greenfield in the hills, not the Pioneer Valley. I think it's time we stop using pioneer because, you know, what about the people that were here when the Europeans barged in? Pioneer seems like a weird word to me, but the valley, yeah, you know what the valley is. And it's a new dawn because there's some really interesting things going on, including the return of the Iron Horse and maybe the Calvin, and also these nonprofit music venues. Also, the Music Share series are really interesting. I'll tell you about those. And it's been quite a week for the local music scene. The Iron Horse and the liquor licenses have been in the news, and we'll try to sort that out as best we can. And I'm going to focus a little bit on the Iron Horse because people keep saying, like, what's going on with the Iron Horse? The Iron Horse is not and never has been the whole music scene, but it's a very important part of it, and it's kind of big time in the news this week, so we'll get into that. And it was a new dawn in 1980 when I moved to Northampton, following my cousin Nan and my sister Beezy, who had moved here. Thorns had opened in 77 and was starting to have a lot of new shops, a lot of new restaurants around, including Andiamo, the fresh pasta restaurant where I got a job. And I had pesto for the first time. And I was like, wow, what is this green sauce? This is delicious. And the music scene was really kind of Sheehan's and Rahar's in Northampton at that time. Sheehan's was a beautiful old bar, one of the oldest continuously running bars in America, and had a local music scene with blues and jazz, and Rahar's, which was in the building where Osaka is now up on the hill. They were bringing in some really good acts, international and national rock acts and reggae and all kinds of cool stuff. And then in 1977, Geordie Harold and John Reily, one of the other John Rileys, who was a book collector, met in the back of Sheehan's, and they wanted to start a little music coffee house. And so they found a place on Center Street, and they rented it. It was what became the Iron Horse, and it held 85 people. It was really tiny. You could go there and have coffee and drink and read newspapers on a stick. They used to have those things like the library, where you put the newspaper. It was very awkward, but you would read it there and have your coffee and sort of look around. Nice light coming in through the window. And then at night, Geordie started really booking that place, and gradually over time built that into an incredible club. Well, UMass also had a lot going on. They had Bright Moments going on in the summer, a wonderful summer music series by the Pond. The UPC council at UMass was putting on, again, really great shows over there. UMass was humming in a way it hasn't since. But this was kind of the golden age for them. And the Rusty Nail in Sunderland was an incredible club, a wonderful place in an old tobacco barn that was bringing in tremendous acts all over the place, including a show I went to, and I was so blown away. I went to Marietta Pritchard, the arts editor at the Gazette, and said, can I do some music reviews? There's some incredible stuff going on around here, and nobody's covering it. That was King Sunny Ade and his African Beats, which was just stunning to me. And Marietta said, go ahead, go out and cover something. Well, it was good timing because that was when Pearl Street nightclub opened. That was 1984. And I got to cover the opening of Pearl Street. And, oh yeah, I have a little clip. I'll read you just a little bit of my description of the opening of Pearl Street, which was a really big deal. It was about 500 people could get in there. And the headline was, huge crowd opens Pearl Street glitter, swank, soul, and electro funk celebrate new club's first night. I'll just read you a little bit. After a ribbon cutting ceremony with Mayor Musanti, guests walked into the elegant foyer, black and white tiled floor, big potted palm, up the stairs, past the newly built bar, and out onto the expansive dance floor. Formerly the Polish home, Pearl Street's main room is a wide and airy space with 18-foot ceilings, 3 gigantic rounded windows overlooking Gleason's Camper Supply, and a dance floor much bigger than the Rusty Nail or the late lamented Hangar One. So indeed, it was a great time to start writing about things because Pearl Street started to take off, especially in those days. They started to bring in like James Brown and Wilson Pickett and Roy Orbison and the Ramones and Ray Charles. Ray Charles played there. I couldn't believe that. That's when it flipped my mind. You could walk into this place in Northampton, you go up the stairs, and it was one of those clubs you could just walk up, and there was Ray Charles singing, Georgia on My Mind. That was just incredible and a real moment for Pearl Street and for the Valley, I thought. Well, Geordie Harold was building up the Iron Horse, and he doubled it in size in 1989. It was very small. So he made it twice as big and continued to book it. And it was humming along, but he got tired of doing it. He got worn out, and he sold it. And after he sold it, it actually went out of business and was closed. And along came Eric Scher, who was buying up a lot of property then. And in 94, Eric bought the Iron Horse, reopened it, and then got Geordie to book it. And so it was back in business. And then 2 years later, Eric Scher bought Pearl Street, which also was either closed or not doing well. Not sure about the details of that, but he really saved that place as well. And then 2 years after that, in 98, Eric Scher bought the Calvin Theater, which was slated for demolition, and brought that back. So at that point, Eric Scher was like the savior of Northampton, and you just can't discount how much he did to bring Northampton into this really central position in the music scene, in that it became like a stop between New York and Boston for touring musicians. And so people just would go to these venues in Northampton, and people came from Vermont and Albany and Hartford, a lot of people from Connecticut. The place was humming. That was called the Iron Horse Entertainment Group, IHEG. And in the early 2000s, they ruled. They were huge, and it was good stuff. And then, this is my theory, and this is the narrative I come up with. So then in 2009, things change a little bit because Eric Scher gets in a big battle with the city of Northampton over the Business Improvement District. He and another big real estate owner, Alan Scheinman, did not like the idea that they were going to have to pay money into this bid, which was going to beautify the streets and clear the streets of snow and put up Christmas lights and whatever. And Eric maintained his taxes were going to go up 43%. And he owned 19 properties in Northampton. So he got really in a heated thing with the city. He and Alan ended up suing the city of Northampton. And they won their case in 2015 when the judge said that the bid was not really put together legally, it was improper. They were like, signatures are smudged. And anyway, the judge threw it out. And so the bid ended. Now, continuing the narrative into the chronology here, then at the end of so that's 2015 when that comes down. Towards the end of the 20-teens, the Iron Horse Entertainment Group lost some of its luster. And there's market reasons and various things, but the Iron Horse really started to feel competition from the Parlor Room and these other places that opened up, like Gateway City Arts in Holyoke and Hawks and Reed. And they were no longer so dominant with the Iron Horse thing. And then Pearl Street just kind of went by the wayside. And the Calvin was booking cover bands like Get the Lead Out and Physical Graffiti. So that had changed. And then COVID came, 2020. We're up to COVID now. COVID, everything stops. And this is where it gets interesting. So I just kind of give you a rough idea of this whole kind of Iron Horse empire and sort of the trajectory. And that's the part that I'm really interested in talking about, which is kind of like what's going on now. Because after COVID, people started to come back in a different way. So the first thing was really Bombyx Arts and Equity Center in Florence. They started up an art center there in Florence. And then that was 2020, 21, was it? Oh, damn, 2021, 2022, the Drake opened in Amherst. Finally, Amherst has a venue. Amherst never had a venue. They had Twister's Tavern, which was a very small venue, just briefly, but essentially, in a college town, Amherst never had a place to go see music. It's just insane. But thank goodness they do now, and the Drake is doing really well. So the Drake comes right after Bombix, and then right after that, Chris Freeman joins the Parlor Room, and he gets Jim Olson to agree to turn the Parlor Room into a nonprofit, which Chris will then run. And then soon thereafter, Chris gets the Iron Horse, gets the Parlor Room Collective to buy the Iron Horse, which is about to lose its liquor license because they've been given a deadline of a year, and we're hitting that year. And so he made a deal with Eric Scher to get the liquor license for the Iron Horse. And so there's these new places popping up that are interesting and really great to have these new venues around. And one interesting thing to me is they're all nonprofits. So that's kind of a new idea, that it would be not a for-profit music venue, but a nonprofit, like Northampton Neighbors. And that's a very different thing. You have a mission that's supposed to be for the community good. You have a board. You can get people to join and give money. You can get grants, probably the most important thing, but also a different relationship with the audience where people can support and be part of it in a way. So it's not just a consumer kind of thing. And that is really an interesting new development, which I think is really healthy. I'm excited about the nonprofit thing. One interesting twist is that all four of those venues, the Drake, Bombix, the Parlor Room, which is still going to be around along with the Iron Horse, which the Parlor Room Collective is going to own both of those. All four of those venues are booked by the same person now. So this is a new name that you need to know about. It's actually an old name, but it's John Sanders, who's part of DSP. So DSP, I hope this isn't getting too confusing, but it's a little name you've seen on a lot of things. If you look at the advertisements for the Academy of Music, they'll have somebody come there and say DSP shows. And they're also at the Pines Theater and Treehouse Brewing in South Deerfield, which is really cranking up DSP shows. So they're based out of Ithaca, and they're going to be booking so many places, including the Iron Horse, Parlor Room, Drake, Bombix, and John Sanders is the guy who's booking it. Now, the thing about John is that he worked at the Iron Horse for 12 years and booked that when they were in their heyday. And he lived here. He knows this area really well. If anybody's going to book all these places, he's a great candidate for it. But it's interesting that essentially one person's going to be booking so much of the music that comes to the Valley. So that's DSP. DSP also, just this year, bought the Green River Festival from Jim Olson and Signature Sounds. And their lineup came out, looks great. Once again, it seems like a very smooth transition. John Sanders really understands Green River. He's been to it for years. He's brought his kids there. He gets it, and the lineup looks great, and that seems great. But once again, DSP is really like a huge player in the scene right now. So I wanted to just talk about, the nonprofits, DSP, and then another thing I think is really interesting, I hope you do too, is the Music Share idea, the Music Share series, which is kind of a discovery-based idea, and it's based on the farm share, where you give money up front to the farmer and then you get a share of food every week. Well, in two cases around here, you give money to a presenter. The first one, and he came up with it, was Glenn Siegel, who had done tons of jazz programming at UMass, where he worked for years and years. And then he got so many people wanting to do shows, and a lot of really interesting avant-garde jazz and music of that ilk, and he just couldn't do enough shows at UMass. So he decided to put his own series together, and he asked all these people he knew who looked like that music, give me $100, and you get 10 tickets over the year, you can use them whenever, then I have money to book artists. And it's a little bit like a subscription series like the Fine Arts Center's done for a long time, where you get 3 shows, but this is like a subscription series like gone wild. It's all about that. And so he started that, and that was his idea. It's a great idea. And then another really interesting presenter who's come into the area, Ido Moore, who's brought incredible music from around the world here in the last 5-7 years at these big shows by the Mill Pond in East Hampton, and he had a big festival in Montague called Barbes in the Woods. Well, he now has one of these Music Share series called Secret Planet. And he's got some great ideas, he's very cool. And he absolutely modeled it on Glenn's thing. And so once again, you give like $100, maybe a little more, and you get 10 tickets. But for Ito, he's got this thing where you get a pouch in the mail and you get these wooden tokens. So you have these wooden tokens that are Secret Planet. And then when you go to the show, you drop them in the bucket at the show. It's like, instead of having the QR code on your phone, which is so annoying, these are like physical tokens. He says it's the opposite of cryptocurrency, these things. And it's just a cool thing. And, it's very smart. Ito's very smart about this because part of it is like changing the experience. Like you sort of feel like you're part of a cool tribe, and it's a different thing. And in general, to promote the idea that it's a different kind of experience that's happening here. And what he does, and Glenn does too, is not only do they have music that a lot of times people have never even heard of, but they just trust these guys, but they also have them in different venues, kind of all up and down the valley. And Glenn's very into like breaking through what's called the tofu curtain, which is, the range separating Holyoke and Springfield from the Upper Valley. And so he's had shows there at Holyoke Media, which is a really nice new venue. It's part of the cable station there in Holyoke. And so these guys are doing an interesting thing. I think that's another cool thing, that a series where it's a music share idea. So that brings us to the big topic today, which is, this is incredible that I'm doing this speech this week, because the Iron Horse and their whole issue with the liquor licenses and Eric Scher, this is today's Springfield paper, liquor licenses canceled over tax issues. So here's the deal with that as best I understand it. Liquor licenses are a big deal in Northampton and people want them. And Eric Scher had 5 of them, and his music venues did not reopen essentially after COVID. And so the city of Northampton went, hey, Eric, we want those licenses. You got like a year to either get back and reopen and use them, or we're going to take them. So Eric, at the very last second, he made the deal with Chris Freeman and the Parlor Room Collective for the Iron Horse, and he made a deal with Gombo Restaurant and with Bowery Presents, who were going to reopen the Calvin Theater. And that all seemed great until just this week. As it turned out, Eric was not able to do that because there was some back tax issues. The tax returns were not up to date, so he didn't get the certificate of good standing he needed from the state. And so the whole thing fell through. And this was looking really bad for the Iron Horse, for the Calvin, for Gombo, and for the city of Northampton. And in fact, the city lost 2 licenses in this whole thing. But here's another strange twist, which I don't completely understand. But anyway, in November, somehow we got 7 more liquor licenses in the city of Northampton. There was a thing put through the state legislation, H.3952, and we got 7 licenses. And there was a couple left over, so the city awarded one to the Iron Horse, right? When they, at the same time at the commission hearing where they're like not getting the handoff from Eric, the city goes, well, you can have one of these extra ones to the Iron Horse. They did not give one to Gombo. Gombo's not happy about that. But it's certainly good news for the Iron Horse, which will now continue with its big plans that are ongoing to renovate the Iron Horse, and $750,000 they're raising. And they've raised a lot of it already. They're doing very well. And now that's not going to be slowed up. But the thing with the Calvin is unclear now. Like, well, what's going to happen there? And, Eric says he was quoted in the paper, we're taking it seriously and trying to get it all wrapped up. He's trying to, smooth it out eventually, but we'll see. So for now, Iron Horse is full steam ahead. Calvin, ? Gombo, upset. And, just a little sidebar, Gombo tonight's going to have New Orleans music. There was a thing in the Gazette this week about that. This is before this all broke, that there's going to be some cool music at Gombo, which is a new Louisiana kind of restaurant there, right on Main Street across from Thorns. So very interesting with the whole liquor license thing. And, I wanted to show that blueprint now, Nina. So here's a cool thing. This is the blueprint of what the Iron Horse is planning to do. So the original Iron Horse was that middle part right there. That's all it was. And then in '89, Jordy added on the part on top of this image and doubled the place in size. So then it holds about 185. Well, the new idea is they've already done this. So they've broken through now to another storefront on the other side, where that's where you're going to come in. And there's a bar right there. So the bar is going to be there instead of in the back of the other room. And then the most exciting thing, tons of bathrooms in the back. These are the bathrooms. This is the most exciting thing. I wanted to do a close-up on the bathrooms because this was the major complaint. Chris Freeman, who's doing this whole project, he said, we want to try to keep the Iron Horse, all the good things people like, and just change the things that people didn't like. Number one on the list, unquestionably, was how long, there was just 2 bathrooms in the basement. It took forever to get to one of them. So now you come in and there's a unisex one right there. And then there's the men's, which seems to have 3 urinals and 1 potty and 2 sinks. And then you go to the back. Oh, the women, they've got 5 toilets and 4 sinks. Fantastic. People are really enthused about that. So anyway, there you go. That's exciting. It's going to be really good. It seems like, I don't want to oversell the Iron Horse right now, but the food's going to be done by Daily Operation, which is a fantastic restaurant in East Hampton. And it stands to be a really super duper place. Let's see. All right, I got time for a couple more things I want to tell you. Well, since we're at the Senior Center, I'm going to tell you about some matinees. Nothing like a good matinee, And I got some good ones for you. The music scene is so huge. And I've been concentrating on the Iron Horse because it's been in the news, but there is so much more all over the place to this area. So I'll just hit on a few things. So here's a matinee for you. This Sunday, Peter Blanchett, Chamber Series at the Drake at 4 o'clock. Peter Blanchett is another person you should know. He's an absolute Valley treasure who plays the 11-string arch guitar. You may have seen him at First Night. He is an incredible musician, wonderful guy. He's playing with a great violinist named Charlotte Mallon. And anyway, that's at 4 o'clock at the Drake this Sunday. That'd be a nice thing to go to. Also this Sunday, you could go to the Blues Jam at Spare Time Bowling Alley, which is hosted by Wildcat O'Halloran. He's got a special guest every week. This week it's Johnny Marino. So if you prefer like electric guitar, and you can dance to blues. I mean, people think blues is like sad. It's sad, but it's actually also very danceable and fun. So that's the bowling alley, where I will also mention the Jazz Workshop series with Paul Arcelanian, which has moved. Well, it started out at the Green Street Cafe, then it went to the Clarion, then it went to the bowling alley, then it went to Drake, and now it's going to split time between both the Drake and the bowling alley. So the jazz thing is coming, and that's a really nice thing also to keep your eye out for. That's not a matinee though. 2 more matinees. Next Sunday, Silver Cord Bowl. This is a wonderful collegiate a cappella thing that I went to for many, many years. And it would always be sort of like before the Super Bowl, and I don't know, I was never that psyched to go, and then I would go, and it would be so enjoyable to hear great collegiate singers, just their voices. It can be stunning. And it's fun. The mayor's there and helps host it, and the Smith College president and the Northampton High School, Northampton sing, and it's a really cool scene. So that's next Sunday, not this Sunday, but a week, the 11th. And the other one I'll mention is Bombix is starting to do matinees, which is really nice. They're going to have the Young at Heart Chorus will be there on February 25th at 3 o'clock. The Young at Heart Chorus, well known in this community, and they should be. They are incredible. Their last show with the dance groups from all over was just fantastic, as are all their shows. Anyway, they rehearse at Bombix. So Bombix has an interesting model where they have a lot of rentals, taiko drums, and they have a brass collective there. And the Young at Heart rehearses there. So they're going to do a matinee on, that would be the 25th there at Bombix. Bombix is also interesting because this liquor thing, no liquor at Bombix. And I talked to Cassandra about that, and that was a very conscious thing in a way. They're in a sacred space. So that church, synagogue, and also preschool, it's a sacred space, that sanctuary there in a way, and they just don't have liquor. which people get used to, like going out and having a drink at a show. Well, you can't do that there, but it's kind of, in a way, a cool thing because it makes the crowd more attentive and it's quieter. And for certain music, it's really, really nice. And so Cassandra called that decoupling of substances and music, which is interesting because like the liquor license thing is such a huge thing, for these other people, because liquor sales are a great way to make money in this business, ticket sales and liquor sales, unless you're a nonprofit, and then you can get grants, and this is what people are doing. So it's all interesting. All right, I've got a couple videos. They're a little bit random, but just for fun. We're gonna try, this will be a technological feat if we pull this off. So I'm gonna turn off my microphone here, and I can talk loud enough in this.
Yeah, so we're going to do a video. This is actually something that's coming up that, again, is during the day for the most part, but also on the weekends. It's a great thing in Northampton called the Back Porch Festival. So this is the weekend. This is March 15th, 16th, 17th. There's big shows at the Academy. This has been on for like 10 years. This festival. Big shows at the Academy at night. And during the day, you can get a ramble pass and run around to 10 different venues and see wonderful music. Steve Olson from Signature Sound brings in at all these different venues. So I'll just show you a little bit. These are all really short. This is a very short bit at the Hotel Northampton. They're all being a stage manager, actually. Probably do it there. And you just sort of see what it looks like a little bit. This is Ward Hayden and the Outliers.
So anyway, there's a little bit of an Hotel Northampton, and there's some fun things coming to the Back Porch Festival. I recommend that. And like I say, the Ramble Pass, I'm particularly in love with that, where you can just go to these different places. One of the things is Mimi Roman, who's an 89-year-old rockabilly singer who dated Elvis. Elvis was kind of crazy about her. She's coming with Laura Cantrell, and they'll be part of it. And there's all kinds of stuff going on. Let's just do another quick video here. So this one is from Progression Brewery, which is part of the Back Porch Festival. You can see stuff there. But this is the Northampton Jazz Festival. Another great thing where you get to roam around Northampton, which is such a great city. I mean, it's one of the reasons that people love this place and come here and live here is like, what a great bunch of buildings and what a nice wide Main Street. And it's just fun to like see it come alive. And the Jazz Festival does that also. That's in September. This is a really good Latin jazz band called Libro Azul. What else have I got here for you? Oh, I was going to do is sing a song for you. This will be very exciting. For me, anyway. Whoa. All right, here we go. So this song, well, the first time I ever came to Northampton was in 1977 when they had a giant concert at the fairgrounds with Taj Mahal and Jerry Jeff Walker and Arlo Guthrie and all these people. And it turned into a riot. It was like one of the worst things that ever happened at the fairgrounds. They planned on 15,000 people, 25,000 came and just ran riot, and people were so upset about it. That was the first time I came to Northampton, and I was like, wow, what is with this town? This is amazing. But there's other things at the fairgrounds. This song actually mentions seeing Kitty Wells at the fairgrounds, at the fair. And she was the first great female country singer. It wasn't God who made Honky Tonk Angels. And she was there with a little Jimmy Dickens. Anyway, this song is kind of just about all these things that you might see. And we'll give it a shot here. I saw Martha Hoople open for Jay Giles. I saw Jimi Hendrix Jam with Buddy Miles, saw the Rolling Stones when they were all just kids, saw the Grateful Dead when they played the pyramid. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I saw Kitty Wells at the county fair. I saw Etta James, Booker T was there. I saw Manfred Mann open for Wet Willie. I saw Sunrise Band when they're playing in West Philly, but I never saw you. I'm just dating myself, dating myself, dating myself, dating myself. I saw Charlie Parker play in Kansas City. I saw Dolly Parton sing with Conway Twitty. I saw Tiny Grimes play with Blossom Dearie. I was friends with Sigmund Freud and Timothy O'Leary. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I had drinks with Dino, chai with Mr. T. Shot the shit with Shank, I check out on the China Sea. I saw Lenny Bruce the night he went to jail. I saw Bonnie Raitt when she played the Rusty Nail. But I never saw you. I'm just dating myself, dating myself. All this stuff is ancient history. I got tickets for tonight. Do you wanna go with me? I saw Cleopatra sail the River Nile. I saw Charlie Chaplin on the set of Gomer Pyle. I got high with Janice, stoned with Cheech and Chong. They got their own place in South Deerfield now. New dispensary. Piled around with Elvis and some guy who knew King Kong. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I took LSD under the apple tree. You wouldn't believe the doses of the tabs we got from Moses. I saw Davy Crockett at the Alamo. I went out with Joan of Arc, Marilyn Monroe, but I never saw you. I'm just dating myself, dating myself. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh come on. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. There you go. It's time for Q&A. Thanks for coming out. Really appreciate everybody coming out. Being on the Zoom and whatever. I hope that was interesting and maybe you know a little bit more. I don't know. Any questions?
Johnny Memphis, folks, that was great.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
So suggestions for facilitating the relationship between the music venues and city government and difficulties in that area.
Yeah, well, I really don't have a great answer for that. I don't really know. I mean, I think, you know, Eric keeps saying it, and, you know, he's doing things in good faith, and that seems to be Chris Freeman's point of view also, that, you know, and so it's hard to say exactly what went on there. I think city government has their own issues about trying to staff things and figure everything out, and I think everybody was hoping this was going to come through, but then, you know, maybe there should have been more communication about it, but I don't really know what you can do other than try to follow the law and, you know, do the best you can and try to keep that good faith going. It's very hard to say. I think Eric is a bit of a unique situation because he owns so much property and he owns so many music venues and he's had an antagonistic relationship with the city. So it's very hard to untangle all that. I don't know.
So this is not a question, but from remote, from Gershon, he was adding to your list of cool things for people to know about. And he wrote, the annual Beatles open mic on February 10th at the Marigold, 50 to 60 performers. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'd like to talk about that. Yeah, just the Marigold, that brings up a really good thing. I wanted to talk about the Marigold because that's a place in East Hampton, formerly the Majestic Theater, which now has become a real center for the local band scene, including that Beatles night that Gershon was talking about. And they're doing wonderful stuff there, and it's great. And they came along right after COVID too. Again, it was like 2021, 22, 23, all this stuff started to pop. And the Marigold, along with Bishop's Lounge in Northampton, where is, the old Bay State Hotel building, they have a great funk scene there. It starts like at 10 o'clock at night. So it's not a matinee, let's just put it that way, but it's a great scene. And the scene for local bands really started with Sheehan's when I got here. Then Sheehan's closed in 92 and it moved to the Bay State Hotel. We had a wonderful Bay State Cabaret for a number of years. And then that ended and it moved to the 11s, which was formerly the City Cafe. And then that ended. And then more recently, like I said, Bishop's Lounge and the Marigold have really become a great spots where there's some really lively stuff going on with the bands. And I love that. Marigold's just really done a great job.
We had a question back there, but before I forget, one coming attraction. Our next speaker series talk will be on Friday, March 1st. Candace Curry will talk about green burials and composting burials. Yes, question back there.
Johnny, that was a great talk. I'm Jim Olson from Signature Sound, and I really appreciate Johnny pointing out what's going on in the local music scene, because it is a major sea change with the IHEAD group sort of dissolving and these new nonprofits taking over the venues. And I just wanted to point out how ironic this is, because in the rest of the country, it's going exactly the opposite way. Whereas in all of the major cities, there's basically two companies you might have heard of, one's called Live Nation, and one's called AEG. And between them, they're buying up all the music venues and really damping down any kind of competition and making the prices go way up and basically taking over control of the local music scenes to the point where it's really a have and have not situation. One of those of your favorite bands you probably encountered. It's extremely expensive. They have a new thing called dynamic pricing, where they basically get rid of the ticket prices and you pay whatever, it's like an auction practically. And so I just want to say I thank Johnny for pointing out just how incredible, unusual this is, that we have nonprofits taking over the music scene and local companies and just local residents supporting this. We're very lucky to have this.
So in case the people on Zoom couldn't hear that, this was Jim Olson of Signature Sound thanking John for talking about the diversity of venues in this area and how counter it runs to general trends going on in music at this point, which is really towards consolidation.
I just wanted to follow up on that because consolidation is an issue here too, in two respects that I can think of. One is radio, where I worked for many years, as did Jim, where Saga Communications, where I worked, owns really a lot of the radio stations around here. So they own The River, they own WHNP, they own Rock 102, and so oldies, and there's a lot of consolidation in radio, and then also newspapers. At the Recorder, there's been consolidation in the media, which is not entirely healthy, where you get just the same reporter in all the different newspapers. So you see it in various ways. And one thing I did want to mention about that too is just, this is one thing I think is really missing, and it relates to that. And, newspapers are struggling everywhere, but the lack of listings, the lack of a place where you could go and find out what was going on, where it was aggregated. This used to be in the Advocate. That was really a main reason why people picked up the Advocate, was for the listings and ads that had all what was going on. And then Hampshire Life, which was the Friday supplement in the Gazette, which did a really good job with listings. Now, you want to find out what's going on, you have to kind of like hunt and peck all over the internet. And it would be nice if there was a place that really concentrated on that, had really good listings. And I was talking with Steve Waxman, the Smith professor, about this, and he said he was in New York City last week, and the Village Voice is gone, and time out in New York is like practically nothing. So you go to New York, it's like, oh, in the big city, where are we going to go? It's very hard to figure out. Again, it's the same problem. So that's happening in a lot of places.
Okay, a couple of things online, and then I'm going to take a question here. A number of people just thanking you, Johnny. You're a star. One person said you were one of the first DJs I heard when I rolled into town in 1992. Some of us seniors are night owls too. And Andy Tourette is also saying that Luthier Co-op has a great local band scene in East Hampton. Now,
Yes,
question?
absolutely. I agree. Luthiers is great.
I was curious about DSP, what Joe was talking about. Are they nonprofit as well?
No, they're not. They're not a nonprofit, but and they're the kind of model where they don't own any venue. They book all over the Northeast, and they have shows in all these different places, and they do a really good job, and they're nice people to work with, and so they have just kind of gradually over time taken things over, and it's I think it's been okay with people. It's just a little concerning that one person and one thing is going to book so much, and how that's all going to work out. We'll see.
Yeah, but in terms of what Jim was talking about, it seems like this is like a salvation for this area.
Yeah.
They're coming in, not, doing the ticket pricing.
Yeah, that's right. I think they're pretty cool, DSP.
Big, guy.
Yeah. And DSP just works with the Iron Horse and Bobix, whoever. They're just the people bringing it in and booking it. So they don't tell the venue what to do, but they work with them.
You just want to the Anchor House, is that on your list?
Anchor House of Artists?
Yeah.
Across from the bowling alley?
Yeah.
They have occasional things there. I don't think they have a regular music series that I know of, but there's so much going on, it's hard to know. This is where the listings would be helpful. Yeah, I know they do some stuff there.
I've seen some listings.
Yeah, and there's stuff like all over the place, little things that bubble up, that, and a million things I should mention, but I don't have time for it anyway.
I have one question. Are we, as it were, Johnny come lately to the music share scene? Has that been around in other parts of the country?
Glenn Siegel says that was his idea. He says that's the one original idea he ever had.
And he's local.
He's local, yeah,
Oh,
Glenn,
that's
sure,
interesting.
absolutely.
Okay, yes, question.
Yeah, I know that the Bowery Ballroom was, which is a concert booker in.
Bowery Presents.
Bowery Presents.
Yeah.
Which books shows in New York and Boston. And
Yeah.
you mentioned in the context of the Calvin and wanting to book shows at the Calvin.
Well, they're actually a venue operator. So, yeah, they run the venue. And my understanding what.
On them is coming to Northampton and.
Well, that's it's like a good question. Like, I think I see it as a good thing. They have run all these big places in Boston and New York, Forest Hills Stadium and, Brooklyn Steel and the Sinclair in Cambridge and Roadrunner in Boston. And they're very successful, and they seem to know what they're doing, and they have good places. And to take on a project like the Calvin, that's a significant thing to take on. So I think they're as good as anybody to step up and do that.
Yeah, in case people couldn't hear the question, it was about an organization, Bowery Entertainment, and
Bowery Presents.
Bowery Presents, and Johnny was explaining about them. Any other questions? Paul?
John, where can you see the Johnny Memphis page?
That's such a good question. Paul asked, where could you see the Johnny Memphis Band? Well, they've kind of priced themselves out of the market, I think. No, that's my band, and we will have some gigs coming soon, but we're working on our material, and then we'll be out there in a big way. But right now, don't have a lot to tell you about that.
Somebody can start the listings again. It makes a huge amount of sense. What's happening, that not afterwards, but before it happens, so you can cover.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Bert is offering to start the listings again. No. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give a little history before you.
Good.
Yeah, I just think, I remember, and I don't even know if anyone else is going to be remembering, 60 years ago, we used to have the St. Mike's dances, and we had the Four Tops, we had Bobby Vinton, and the person who did that, who brought in those, was Father Judd from St. Michael's School.
All right.
So that's real history. But from someone who's been born here, I can't thank you enough, John. You're the best neighbor that anybody could have. I love what's happened at Pearl Street and the parlor room, and it's just remarkable. I'm just so proud of our music scene.
That was Linda Desmond talking about all the great bands that used to come to St. Michael's School for their dances, and thanking John as a great neighbor and for his contributions to the music scene.
I'm just going to mention a couple other things, just, I'm not going to get into them, but just some interesting things that I just would love to mention. There's other great festivals, Watermelon Wednesdays in Whately. You ever go to that thing? That is incredible. It's fantastic. It's in this little place in the summer. They bring in world-class stuff. It's a great thing to check out. Black Birch Vineyard now has outdoor concerts that kind of came out of COVID. Really nice concerts outside in the vineyard. That's a good deal. Two other things. These are sort of big ideas. So the music share idea and came out of this idea of the associative economy. It kind of reminds me of the Northampton Association, the Utopian Society. And it actually goes back to Rudolf Steiner, some people say, in 1922. He had this whole concept of the associative economy, which is the inspiration behind farm shares, ethical banking, social finance, community land trust. Oh, I want to mention the Arts Trust too. That is now a beautiful new building over on Holly Street, 33 Holly, with some incredible spaces. It's going to be a lot of theater and there's art and dance, but there'll be some music in there too, including a piano series that Glenn Siegel does at the end of February. They have a weekend of Friday, Saturday, Sunday of piano in there. So that's a cool thing. And I just like this idea of the associative economy. So you become that's like when you join the parlor room and you give them $100 and you become a member, and then you get special deals and you actually become part of a community that helps support that, or the music share. It's taking like communal responsibility for making sure things happen. So it's not so much the producer consumer, but like we're all in this together. We want to have good farm and good farm food. We want to have jazz or whatever you like. Well, okay, then let's make it happen. To do that, you put some money up front, and then you're no longer just the consumer. You're part of it's a different relationship. And I think it's a really cool thing. I like it a lot. And the last thing I want to say, in AARP magazine, which is perfect for being here, which even when you get it initially, it's like, wow, am I that old? Yes, you are. So anyway, on the cover was Ringo Starr. It's a very good issue about music and health. And in it, they talk about like how music with dementia and Alzheimer's can be just an amazing thing. And at one point in the article, Oliver Sacks is quoted as saying, music is a neurologic necessity. I love that. So, that's my takeaway thought. You got to have it. We need it. Oh, yeah.
Just a couple of comments online. Wendy Bird points out that the Bowery Group Presents also runs the State. I guess it's a venue. The State in Portland.
In Portland, yeah.
Diane asking how we can get tickets for the Back Porch Festival. Wendy says they are available online. And Diane, the executive director, Diane Porcella, the executive director of Northampton Neighbors, asks for you listening remotely or here, let us know if you would like us to post more music on our listserv. Any other questions? Yes.
Just have a comment. The Fabulous 413
Yes.
does a pretty good job of saying what's happening here.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really whole other topic too, what's happened at NEPM, New England Public Media, which the radio station moved down to Springfield and then joined up with the TV station. And then they got rid of their classical programming, but they still have that on a secondary thing. And then Monty from the River went down there with Khalees and now does the Fabulous 413 program weekdays at 3. And that's given a real wonderful shot of energy to that station and brought a lot of great information, like you say. They don't really have the listing so much, but they let you know in their pieces a lot of interesting things. Like, for instance, they did a great thing this week with the Iron Horse and the liquor licenses. They were on that, and they had great pieces on that, interviewing Chris Freeman from the Parlor Room, and it was very good programming. So yeah, that's a really nice thing. Oh, and here's another cool thing: is Carrie Saldo, who used to do Connecting Point, fantastic journalist, one of the best interviewers I've ever seen. Just started the show this morning on NEPN, Friday mornings at 9. Genius journalist. I think she's super duper, and it's so great to see her back, because she hosted Connecting Point on TV for a long time, and then she went away, and now she's back. Anyway, it's another good thing.
All right, so thank you all for coming here to the Senior Center. Thank you for joining us remotely, and thank you, Johnny Memphis.
My pleasure. Thank you.